Hello YouTubers out there, this is Jerry at the Movies. Today I'm briefly going to talk about Pulp Fiction, which just recently got released on Blu-Ray. Seen a couple of clips on the Blu-ray, and it is an extraordinary picture quality, no doubt about it. Now the story about Pulp Fiction, from my experience, is rather fascinating to me because when it came out, two things had happened. Quentin-Tarantino was already a name that was being talked about quite a bit due to the release of Reservoir-Dogs in 1992. And there was an excitement around the picture because it had been shown at the Cannes Film Festival and it won the Golden Palm Award. So I got interested, but initially I wasn't all that fond of Tarantino. I saw Reservoir-Dogs, and I saw it on video back in the days of VHS, and I couldn't quite get into it, but there was an energy to it, so I didn't completely write it off. At the time, I made the mistake of saying that this film was a little too much like Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets, and the truth is that it couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it's nothing at all like a Martin Scorsese picture in hindsight, but its most notable antecedent would be Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, which I highly recommend for those of you who like Reservoir-Dogs. So, but I saw Reservoir-Dogs again after I'd seen Pulp Fiction, because when I saw Pulp Fiction, and again, I wasn't enamored of Tarantino, and I'd seen the Tony Scott directed True Romance, wasn't very fond of it. That same summer, I believe it was August of '94, came Natural Born Killers, which of course was completely revised from Tarantino's original script. And I really hated Natural Born Killers the first time I saw it. But then came Pulp Fiction. I saw it was a crowded theater. I was living in New Mexico at the time. And I felt the energy level already in the audience before the first shot came up. And it was just an intoxicating movie. It was so completely new. And it is, in fact, very original, that picture. It's just... It was thrillingly alive. You know, it just felt completely conscious. It had a new kind of energy I hadn't really seen before. It reminded me of Reservoir-Dogs, and then I realized what it was I missed in Reservoir-Dogs, which was the humor. Because there is a lot of humor in it that's easy to kind of block out from your memory because of the film's violence. And there is violence in Pulp Fiction, but the picture itself is it's almost like a pop carnival of emotions, in a way. Pop carnival landscape. And what it was Tarantino's own universe. It was his own thing. It was not like any other universe anybody had ever seen before. The main characters, the hitmen, Vincent Vega and Jules, these people were talking in pop culture terms. Everything was a reference to pop culture in some way. The discussion over hamburgers or cheeseburgers in France as opposed to in America. I mean, everything, it was a new kind of conversation, almost like the way people really do talk in real life, but injected with a lot more wit, perhaps, than real talk. Because people it's interesting, I think to Inglourious Basterds, where someone once made a reference, I don't know if it was Tarantino himself or Samuel Fuller, said that in war, most of the time the soldiers, when they're not fighting, are not talking about war. They're talking about other things that have nothing to do with war. And if you see Samuel Fuller's The Big Red One, you'll see that in Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan and The Steel Helmet. But the idea is that Tarantino's taken that to a new level, a whole new level of speech that we really hadn't heard in a movie before. Certainly not to the extent in Tarantino, shown in Pulp Fiction or Reservoir-Dogs, or really anything he's done since then. But the thing for me about this movie is that it plays with the twists and conventions of at least three different genres. The lurid atmosphere of film noir, the standard action-oriented melodrama, and your basic gangster crime picture. The difference is that the characters end up in bizarre situations that aren't dictated by cliched plot points or mediocre car chases. These characters live and die by doing stupid things. And, for example, Butch, played by Bruce Willis, and this is a spoiler for those who haven't seen it, his stupid deed is to get his precious gold watch back at his apartment, where the killers are inevitably waiting for him, because he plays a boxer who, instead of throwing a fight for the gangster boss Marcellus Wallace, played by Ving Rhames, he beats the guy to a bloody pulp and kills him. So, of course, now he's on the run. He has to come back for his gold watch. And when he arrives, there doesn't seem to be anyone around, but Vincent Vega, played by John Travolta, is in the bathroom and left his silencer on the kitchen counter. And this makes it easy for Butch to blow him away after he hears the toilet flush. So it's really that kind of picture. But also another thing about Pulp Fiction is a few years back, writer Paul Schrader made a comment that Paul Schrader, by the way, is the one that wrote Taxi Driver and Hardcore and a lot of other films, and has directed a few, including Mishima. And Paul Schrader made a comment that the existential crime picture or the existential anti-hero seems to be disappearing. He wrote this back in 1999 in reference to Tarantino, and that he and Scorsese used to write about or dealt with existential anti-heroes, the ones who are racked with guilt and undergo consequences for their actions. Whereas at that time, it was really about the ironic anti-hero, the one who doesn't care. So, and I don't know if we're still dealing with that to some degree, because the existential anti-hero we don't see as much. Travis Bickle was the existential anti-hero. Crime pictures by Jean-Luc Godard, such as Alphaville, and I mean, there's a host of these type of movies, even going far back as film noir. They dealt with characters who had some measure of guilt. Some didn't give a damn, but there were consequences. But the ironic thing about Pulp Fiction, I think, and to some degree his other films too, especially Jackie Brown, is that there are consequences. It's just the way that he plays with the genre. He twists it a little bit, but he still makes it about the people. The characters are shallow, or they're shallowly conceived, but they have such strong personalities that that's what really stands out. And there are just as many people saved as there are killed in Pulp Fiction. Kill Bill, I don't know so much, but that's certainly probably his most ultra-violent picture. But in Pulp Fiction, there are just as many people saved as there are killed. In fact, a friend of mine at the time that Pulp Fiction came out said that it's possible Forrest Gump was a little more violent than Pulp Fiction. But I don't know if that's really true. But at any rate, Pulp Fiction is clearly the most influential film since 1994. I mean, I don't think, aside from Blair Witch Project, which was more influential in terms of how to make a movie cheaply, which certainly had its influence there, because now a lot of things are shot on video and HD video and so on. Pulp Fiction changed the way that we kind of look at films a little bit. It was a critique of them. It was a critique of even action movies. You know how you always see in action movies, particularly Lethal Weapon, the hitmen who are ready to perform a hit, and they just exist to spout the little cliches like, I'm going to kill you, you're going to die, or whatever. Pulp Fiction seems to center around those characters and what it is that they say between hits. And deals with a lot of the tropes of film noir and reinvents them. Just, it has its own unique structure that is novelistic, but for a film, it's very unusual. You know, we don't really see too many films that deal with a structure so uniquely, so well constructed. I mean, Tarantino and by the way, co-writer Roger Avary, brought this thing together in ways that nobody else has really been able to top. You know, it's a crime picture. It thinks it's hard-boiled, but it's really also a critique of action movies and film noir. It just says, you know, we always want the formula to be this way. What if we start twisting things a little bit around? And the twists and the jumps and the loops all circle around the characters. Or they situate themselves around the characters so that the characters are the ones making these twists possible, these little curveballs. And it's a curveball it's a basic FU to Hollywood. Say, listen, you really want to do something new and unique, I'm going to show you. And that to me was Pulp Fiction. It's a dazzling, entertaining movie. I mean, it's quotable. All the lines are quotable. But lines being quotable doesn't make a movie great. What makes this movie great, I think, is its postmodernist wink at it all and still maintain a level of surprise so that the postmodernism doesn't overstay its welcome. In other words, it actually is about the characters and their situations. You remember those things. That's what you remember. You don't remember nearly as much even the structure. It's really just you follow the story of these characters and what they're going through and all the surprising turns that take place that make you even rethink about some of the things regarding these characters, especially Marcellus Wallace, played by Ving Rhames, or even Samuel Jackson, you know, a scary hitman who spouts Ezekiel 25:17 before he kills somebody, and at the end he has a change of heart. He wants to walk the earth like Cain in Kung Fu, and John Travolta's Vincent Vega doesn't want to do that. And ultimately, when you look at the film again, you'll notice that if Vincent Vega had followed his advice maybe and decided to leave the business, he might have lived. But of course, he's on his own, which some people didn't pick up on at the time. And that's why when Butch finds him in the apartment, he's by himself, whereas Samuel Jackson was there, maybe Butch wouldn't have lived. But then Marcellus Wallace, what happens to him? I mean, you got to see the movie you have, and it's really, it's just an extraordinary film. And I can't say enough good things about it. At the time I wrote the review, my initial review of Pulp Fiction, I said that it's possible he may never make another movie like Pulp Fiction again. That critics, I think, especially Rex Reed, feel he could never make a real movie about real people and situations dealing with real emotions. But Jackie Brown certainly was that, you know, and it was a more adult film. And then he was back to his usual self. But I think Inglourious Basterds probably surpasses Pulp Fiction. But as much as I love Inglourious Basterds, and it is a masterpiece of entertainment, if nothing else, Pulp Fiction, to me, is the one that I always think about. It's just, there's something about it, I'm not sure what it is. It's just, it brings back the joy of movies, you know, and there are dark moments and there's some graphic violence, but it's like a thrill ride, you know, but the ride is a ride that each time you see it, there's something new and revelatory that you may not have caught on, and the irony of it, it's just a unique picture. So if you don't have it, DVD or Blu-ray, it doesn't matter, check out Pulp Fiction. If you haven't seen it, or you have seen it, and maybe agree with a little bit of what I said, and you didn't initially like it, you might see it differently. So, yeah, Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino. 1994. And this is Jerry the Movies, signing off.